Hey, this is three-time All-Star Evan Longoria, and you're listening to Jim on Base.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jim on Base Show. For today's very special guest, we have on someone who is the 2008 AL Rookie of the Year, three-time All-Star and Gold Glover. He's a Silver Slugger Award winner and the newest member of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Please welcome to the show, the great Evan Longoria. Evan, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the intro.
Yeah, it's good to see you, and I know you signed with the Diamondbacks, but what else have you been up to this offseason? Any trips or family time?
Yeah, definitely a lot of family time. We have a new 1 year old. Well, she's about a year and a half now.
Oh, wow.
So just spending a lot of time with her. We've taken a couple trips. We took the kids to Mexico, and
Mhm.
right after the season ended, took a trip to Florida for Christmas and the New Year's. Spent some time with my wife's family there. But outside of that, just here, obviously going through the whole like free agency thing
Mm.
for the first time in the off season was um, quite an experience, fun experience, like just, being able to like see what's out there. But we enjoyed that process.
Yeah. Well, you got your hands full then. You're changing diapers. You're picking up a kid before we started this, so you're getting around.
Yeah, we've had we had a nanny for a while, full-time nanny, but um, we've since not had one. We had to let her go, and then we just kind of been doing it ourselves. So we're shuffling back and forth with three kids. We have all of them go to school. The 1 year old, she's just kind of in like preschool thing, and
Mm.
the other two are obviously in regular school. So kind of just shuffling the duties back and forth of who's doing the pickups and who's doing the taking in the morning, and just trying to fit our own schedules in between that.
Yeah. Well, it makes me wonder too, you have all those things going on, and then you're also kind of getting towards the end of the off season. So, what's your
Yeah.
mindset when February is getting close? Are you revving up the workouts or?
Yeah, I've been I work out 3 days a week with my guy here at Premier Fitness Systems. It's just a small place up north, Scottsdale, and luckily enough, like Salt River Fields is right up the road from my
Mm.
house. So, and I was lucky with the Giants too to be, we were just in Old Town in Scottsdale. So, being for the last 6 years now, being able to just like go into the facility and see most of the coaching staff um, and have a place to work out, have a place to get some training, training room time if you need any of that. Like all of that's accessible. So it's been really nice. Obviously, going over to Salt River now and trying to learn names, trying to learn faces. Just like trying to kind of you know assimilate myself into Diamondbacks culture. So it's been a change, but it's been a welcome change so far.
Nice. Well, one thing that I think is pretty interesting about you too is I know you're a memorabilia slash like card collector, right?
Yeah, we've gotten into it pretty heavily.
Well, yeah, I thought it was interesting because I don't know if you know who Jim Irsay is. He's the owner of the Colts, but I was at a
Yeah.
concert. Yeah, he put it on, and then he shows off his memorabilia collection. And there was a Jackie Robinson rookie card and
Wow.
a game used bat. So I don't. Do you collect the older stuff like the Mickey Mantles or?
Well, I mean, I have some, but that's the direction that I want to go for
Mm,
sure. I think um, that part of collecting is really like, I wish I would have known that like 2.5, 3 years ago when I
mm,
first started, like, we were just buying everything and kind of, into the fever of like, we're like mid pandemic. There's nothing to do. Like all we're doing is like buying cards online and opening them at home. And it was a thrill for my kids and I.
mm,
But I wish I would have taken some of that money that I spent on that and like bought like some more rare, like
mm,
older cards, that I know now hold value and will hold them for a long time. And that's just like what I find interesting to look at is
mm.
like a Jackie Robinson card, or a Willie Mays or something like that. I actually have probably the coolest piece of memorabilia that I have is I have a game used Roberto Clemente bat that's
Oh
signed by
wow.
him. So that's probably the thing that, if somebody was like, oh, what's your proudest thing to display?
Uh,
Like I would definitely like whip that out and be like, dude, check this out.
well, I was gonna ask that because I've seen on your Instagram you posted a signed jersey from Steph Curry, so I figured that would be
Yeah.
one of the cooler pieces too.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I've been lucky, really lucky. And again, this is going to be, a long time without me saying how many years, this is a lot of years playing. And I wish I would have, I've collected some things over the years, like, but I wish I would have like thought about how cool it would be like post career to have like a lot of the things, a lot of the like moments that I've been around and seen, and players that I've seen. Like I never really asked for anything, like I wish I would have asked for like a Derek Jeter like
Mm.
jersey swap. I wish I would have like tried to get like sign balls from like guys like Pujols, and I've got a couple bats from Trout, but um, just looking back now, I'm like, man, I wish like that would have been cool to like just put up on the wall later and look at.
Yeah. See, I've always wondered that. Is it kind of weird when you are a baseball player? Because would it be like me asking a coworker, "Hey, can you sign this for me?" Like, do you have to think of it as a different perspective, I guess, in the moment, or?
I I think just like the reason that I'm like hesitant to do it, or I've been in the past, is like I sometimes you get annoyed like if you go to a place and there's like 50 things on your chair to sign,
Mm.
and um but as I've gotten older, I'm like, man, I don't really care, like I just sign, I'll sign whatever comes over. And like I think it's cool because I think a lot of times guys like on the other team are actual, like they're just fans, like,
Mm.
you and I, like, I'm a fan of that guy over there, and like I want to have that for the future, like for my collection, and I think you start to understand that like most guys aren't selling it. Most guys are like, they just want it to have and like be like, hey, like show their kids or grandkids, like I played against this guy and he's like a really good player, and
Yeah.
here's his autograph. So I swapped jerseys with a couple of young studs last year that I'm really excited about. I got a Bobby Witt jersey when he
Mhm.
was in town, that he signed to me, and then I got an Austin Riley jersey
Nice.
when they were in town. So two of the really talented young infielders of the game today, and so I think next year I'll probably up it a little bit. I'm not. I haven't quite decided if it will be my last year, but if it is, like I'd like to, be able to like get some cooler things, like some things that I've been like wanting for a while.
Yeah. Well, there's a rumor going around that you're going to retire and then become a UFC fighter, right? So,
No, no,
yeah.
I'm gonna be front row at a lot of UFC events, so that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, one thing too about the trading I thought was funny was if you're the player, it's easy for you to just get your own cards, probably sign them and then trade them, and it's no skin off your back, right? It's a good strategy.
Well, I mean, I still have to buy my own cards. Like I'm
Oh,
bidding, I'm watching a card right now that's going to end in 4 hours. The thing's up to like $900. So I
wow.
want to tell everybody it's bidding, like just back off. Like I
Yeah.
want it. But no, normally I pretty much buy like all, the cards that I want to mine. Like people don't really give them to me, so I
Oh,
pretty much buy them too.
oh, okay. Well, who was the first autograph that you got? Do you remember that, or as a kid maybe?
Um, No, but I remember being at a game. Like I remember getting an autograph. I don't remember who it was, but I was at an Angels game, and I never really had a chance to get there like early enough. My parents worked a 9 to 5, so for the most part, like if we were going to go to a game, we were getting there like right at game time.
Mm.
So knowing what I know now, I mean, obviously, if you want to get an autograph, like you probably have to be there at 4:30 or five
Yeah.
o'clock. Like that's when most of the players are on the field, and then you don't really see, especially home team players, like they're pretty much off the field by like 5:30.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I remember being at an Angels game. I got a couple autographs on a ticket stub. I wish I had it. I don't have it. I mean, I probably just threw it in a drawer somewhere and forgot
Yeah.
about it. But um, I never, I only went to really Angels games. I went to a couple Dodgers games, but grew up going to Angels games.
Oh, okay. What puts you in the mood then to sign before a game? Is it you're ahead of schedule, game prep wise, or what's the psychology behind it?
I think most guys like, I think most guys just decide like that, like I'm gonna sign some today or I'm not,
Mm.
like, or a lot of times like I'll be out there and I'll just notice, like normally it's just like I'll see a big group of kids,
Mm.
and like if it's just a bunch of like guys my age,
Yeah.
like with backpacks
eBayers.
on, like I'm probably not going to stop, but if it's like a big group of kids, then I think that's what kind of draws most guys over, is
Mm.
like, oh, like I'll go over and sign for the kids,
Yeah.
but yeah, most days it's like, oh, I'm going to sign a few today, or I'm not going to sign a few, I'm going to go get my work in and then come in.
Yeah. Well, you're in Arizona, and as you know, it's a great golfing area. And I think I
Yeah.
saw a picture. You have a set of Giants golf clubs, right?
Yeah, I had a pretty good relationship with a guy by the name of Steve Mata. He's a Callaway. He does the collegiate side now, but he's taken care of me over the years. And so I've got some of my clubs are stamped with some Giant stuff. I've got a nice putter that one of their guys made with some stamps on it. And then he actually sent me, I think probably what you saw was the headset cover from the
Mm.
U.S. Open that they played at TPC Harding Park. So it's a really cool. I don't even play golf hardly. Like I wish I did. Well, I shouldn't say I wish I did. I told everybody I retired this off season. Um, but yeah, no, it's a really cool set. I look at it in my garage every day when I walk out.
Yeah. Well, you had some good Giants teammates that golf, so like Matt Cain, Jeremy
Yeah.
Outfelt, George Contos. Looks like Buster Posey does because he's going to be at the Pebble Beach Pro Am. So who's the best then? I mean,
Oh, is he playing it this year?
yeah, yeah. So I need some inside info from you because I need to know if I should say something to him to get his attention to talk to me.
I think Buster's getting pretty good at golf. I know he's been playing a lot. From what when I've talked to him this offseason, it seems like he's either hunting or golfing. And he's been playing a lot of golf. So he'll probably be ready to go.
Be in the zone.
I wish it'd be fun to see like him and Kane or him and one of the other guys out
Yeah.
there like being competitive about it. I don't, Buster's a consummate competitor anyway, so he's probably going to be competing against the guys in his group or whoever. Um, but no, I mean I don't know that. I'm sure Buster's probably heard it all. He's not going to get rattled by anything you could say to him.
Okay. No, anything I could forward from you to like get him to talk to me, because I want to interview him.
Oh,
Anything
um,
funny or
dude, Buster might be like the hardest guy to get a hold of.
yeah.
He was hard to get a hold of during when he was playing.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I'm not betting on
so
it.
yeah, no. I, I, I don't know. I mean, even if I probably put a good word in, he'd be like, whatever, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's so many ex-athletes that live in Arizona. I've talked to
Yeah.
Eric Gagne, Paul Konerko, Mark Mulder, and it seems like they're always on the course. So, do you ever see them around or anybody notable near you?
Mulder used to live right near me. He actually
Mm.
moved. He used to live right around the corner. Now he's moved up a little bit more north. Um, but I've got a couple of guys who, in my era, those guys are just a little bit before me. But sorry, Pete Borges lives right around the
Mm.
corner from me. Drew Smiley
Oh,
lives the other way, just up the street. And then, I mean, the guys that are here: Logan Webb from the Giants, Brandon Crawford from the Giants, Kevin Pillar, ex-Giant.
yeah.
There's a lot of guys. I mean, the place that I work out at, every guy that I see in there is, a player, current player, ex-player. I mean, AJ Puck is there, AJ Pollock, Sean Mania was there this year. Mark Canna used to be there. He's not there
Mm.
anymore. And then a bunch of young Arizona Diamondbacks guys are there too. So, I mean, there's baseball guys everywhere. Like everywhere you go, I mean, younger guys, older guys. It's just that's the reason why I chose to come here
Mm.
in the first place. When I was 23 years old, was like I played in the fall league here after my first year, and basically just fell in love with the area. Ended up buying a house, and just haven't left.
Get your Camelback mountain runs in, you know?
Oh man, the hiking, the golf, I mean, I had a friend of mine from New Jersey was out here last week, and he's like, man, now I see why. I now I see why people live here in the wintertime.
Yeah.
If you come in the summer, you won't ever come back. But if you come in the winter, you'll probably stay for the next winter.
Yeah. No, I love going there. I usually go for spring training, but I love
Yeah.
it. And it's a booming town. Like, it seems like more and more people are headed there too.
We're trying to keep it a secret for as
Yeah.
long as we can.
Yeah. Well, I know you also have your Ducky's restaurant in Florida, right? So I've always
Yep.
wondered, are you into cooking? Are you a foodie, or is it just business opportunity?
Yeah, no, I pretty much cook every night.
Oh,
Love eating out. I love going out to dinner. I love traveling for food. Like that's one of the big perks of being in the big leagues is like seeing the country and trying new restaurants. And but yeah, I'm always looking for new things to cook, trying new things. I think that year after year, like that's one of the things that I try to tell myself is to like try something new. I want to like be more like explorative with foods but yeah, I love to cook, love to eat. The restaurant Ducky's was conceptually not mine. I was brought in with a group of friends when they had the idea, and it's since been. I was a co-owner. Now I'm a co-owner with two of my other friends. We bought it from that other group, and my best friend still runs it. Still is the GM and does the day-to-day operations. So I'm not very hands-on with it, but I definitely
Get the word out.
yeah, and the food industry itself is not something that I'd recommend for the faint of heart. It's a very hard business to make, especially to make money, but it's a people industry. You have to be like the service industry is all about like the guests and the people, and like sometimes like people forget that, and it's very hard to like just break even every month without like wanting to like funnel money in your pocket.
Yeah. Well, what's on the agenda for tonight then? Are you cooking tonight, or because it's getting close
Oh,
to
I
dinner
haven't asked
time?
my wife. Yeah, the kids were getting their hair cut.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have any plans for dinner tonight, so I don't know. I'll probably have to go out there and figure out what we're gonna pull out of the freezer.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing too about food is, at least at the Giants Stadium, and it's probably like this everywhere now, right? It seems like if you get there early, you can kind of eat all day at the stadium. They seem to have some good
Yeah,
varieties and healthy options for you guys, right?
yeah. Over the past couple CBAs, it's become kind of one of the focal points. Not necessarily the focal point, but like players definitely have been pushing, for the last 5 or 6, 7 years to like have better food options, have healthier food options, and that I think that's kind of top to bottom too. Not just at the big league level, but I think it used to be that when you make it to the big leagues, that was like a point of pride, right? Like, oh, like the food is better, like, but and for the older guys like myself, it was like, oh, like the minor league guys, like they don't deserve to, like give them a peanut butter and jelly,
Yeah.
because that's what we had. It was like you'd have like a veggie tray and like a peanut butter and jelly. You could make a peanut butter and jelly, or maybe you get like some Firehouse subs or something like before the game. And then you'd have like a decent like hot spread out there. It was always catered, it'd be like a
Mm,
tray of lasagna or like some, chicken wings and
mm.
mashed potatoes or something like that. But top to bottom, like it's gotten much, much better. And it makes sense, it's like these owners and teams are putting so much money into player development. And like that's a big part of it, right? Like the healthy food and like having good options, like it's probably proven to like keep guys healthy and like make them perform better. So I think all of that stuff has become more thoughtful over the years, and definitely like something that the players really like push for.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. And one thing too, I gotta squeeze in here. I'm a fellow drummer myself, and I
Oh,
heard
right
that you,
on,
yeah,
man.
yeah, you're a drummer. So what kind of set do you have?
Oh, I actually look at I haven't played in forever. I there was a company out of gosh, I don't they were out of Florida. I don't know exactly what city. It was just like right outside of St. Petersburg.
Mm.
It was called Crush. I don't know if they even still make drums. Um, but they gave me like two sets. And I had a Roland TD7 electric set.
Oh, nice.
But
The
yeah, I
wife
gave
probably
one.
appreciates that.
Yeah, she's happy that I'm not like banging on him in the house anymore. But I have one set in my cage out back here still. The other set I gave to one of the kids that lives in my neighborhood in St. Petersburg. But yeah, no, I haven't played in forever. I mean, I look at it. My One of my kids broke both of the drumsticks out there, so I don't even have a set of drumsticks for the kid outside. But
That's a good
I
strategy.
played for a lot of years. Yeah, I mean, it was just I never got really that good, but I really enjoyed. I think kind of like the more like mindless aspect of just like listening to music and going back there. I did it a lot before the games
Mm.
in Tampa, and just like it kind of took my mind away from the game and away from
Uh,
like everything else, and just like put me in a different place.
well, who did you jam with? Because I heard you had one at the stadium. So there's got to be other
Yeah.
guys in the clubhouse.
Sometimes actually Eric Hinsky was probably the best
Oh,
drummer that I ever saw.
wow.
My rookie year, he would play, and then when he came back, like he was with Boston and with New York, and then he was with Atlanta after that. And when they came back, he would play on it. But and also Rocco Baldelli
Oh
was
yeah.
a bass guitar player, so he'd come back there and play his bass sometimes, and we jam a little bit. But um, the only other time I would like really play was I used to go to this back when I was single and young. There was this bar in Tampa called the Dubliner. It's actually still there, I think. Um, and a guy that I became friends with, was a really good musician. Two guys, and and the drummer would like let me play on the kit, like when they were playing, and it was like I was, obviously had a couple drinks, was having a good time. I can't imagine how horrible I was at playing the drums, but they didn't care and they let me do it, and it was a good time.
That's cool. Well, who are your favorite drummers? Because the two that have always stood out for me would be Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and then
Yeah,
Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters. And I actually got to see one of his last shows back in February during that MLB
really,
Extra Innings Festival. So
that's pretty cool.
those are my two favorite guys.
You're gonna put me to it now. I mean, the one guy that comes to mind is Neil Peart,
Mm,
for Rush, and
yeah,
I love listening to Rush. I think that Rush as a band is like, the amount of noise that they can make with just three members
yeah.
is pretty incredible. And I know that Geddy Lee is a big baseball fan too. I'd seen him
Mm,
in Toronto a couple times at games in the front row. So I'll go with Neil Peart.
that's a good choice.
But it's funny because like rock music is like, I listen to a lot of classic rock,
Mm.
but haven't listened to any like new rock. So I wouldn't even know who the new rock bands are, like the drummers. Like I just don't listen to it anymore.
Well, I'm kind of the same way because nothing's really worth listening to. It seems like a dying breed these days. I'm trying not to get
Yeah,
depressed about it.
I know. Yeah, we'll keep it moving.
Yeah. Well, your song is Down and Out by Tantric, right? So are you going to go with a
Yeah,
new song in Arizona or you just stick with the same thing?
yeah. I'll probably just stick with the same thing. Like my wife is like, you can't change it. It's just so like, it's one of those things. Like I would have, if I could have, I would have like, I'm just as just the way that I am. Like I would have stuck with the same song, the same
Mm,
cleats, the same team, the same, like bat, every, like I'm not superstitious, but I really like routine.
mm,
I really, um, it's, I just think that of all of the different like variables and things that can happen in baseball, like I really like keeping as many things like as similar or the same as possible. And so, um, I think as I've gotten older, it just, the less things that I can think about, the better.
yeah.
So I know there's some guys like get to the field, they're like looking through their phone, like I'm going to change my music like day to day, like they're sending it in. I'm going to have a different walkout. It's like I don't want to. I don't want to have to worry about those things. Like
Yeah.
I know that there's certain things that I need to worry about on a daily basis, and that's not, doesn't really feel like it should be one of them.
See, you are getting older. You sound like a dad now,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. I am.
Well, are you driving the minivan now or have you gone that route?
Oh, I drive a minivan. Yeah, we have one that we definitely we swap in and out of, but I don't think that there's anything more convenient than a minivan, especially when you have three kids. So I could care less if I have to roll up in that thing because it's all about convenience at this point.
That might be the quote of the interview.
Yeah, it might be.
Well, did they live with you when you were in San Francisco? And where did you live when you were in the city? Or were you
They
outside of it?
No, we lived in the city. They were, man, it was a long 5 years, especially the
Mm,
last 3 years, because they were barely there. We lived I've lived in Soma for the last three, like
mm,
right by the ballpark.
nice.
Um, Last year I lived right across the street from the ballpark because my family wasn't going to be there hardly at all. So
Oh, okay.
I walked to and from the ballpark. My first year and then the year before last, we lived in not the same building, but like probably I could have walked, but
Mm,
it was probably about a 25 minute walk
mm.
from the ballpark, just up the Embarcadero and then to First Street. I'm drawing a blank on it,
Oh,
Harrison or
okay.
something. Um, and then we lived for one year. The best year in terms of living situation, we lived in Cow Hollow,
Oh,
which was
nice.
really nice. We rented a house there, lived just above Union, and I just loved Union. I love being able to walk down there, walk the street. There's nice, beautiful restaurants there, beautiful like street to walk, and
Hmm.
it was just more of a felt more like a community there versus like Soma is obviously it's the hustle and bustle of like
Yeah.
big buildings and condos and a lot of business around there. So it felt more like I guess more like a neighborhood or whatever over there. But and then obviously 2020, I just lived in a hotel for half the year, so
Oh, yeah.
it was a bit of a grind for 3 years there because obviously the 2020 and the beginning to middle part of 21 we had a lot of restrictions in terms of who could come and go and
Mm.
all the protocol and stuff. But yeah, they've spent very little time there in the past 3 years.
Mm. Well, Arizona, then it makes sense because you live there, you got spring training and your home game. So it sounds like a perfect
Yeah,
match.
yeah, it was choice. It was like 1A and 1B. Between um, probably we would have been happy going obviously back to Tampa would have been a great fit for us because we have a home there and
Mm.
we're familiar with that area. Back to San Francisco was probably in that same ABC, take your pick. Like those are the three places that I said at the end of the season, like if we can land in one of those three places, here, Tampa or San Francisco, like we would be happy with all of them just because of the
Mm.
familiarity. Like we just didn't want to change a whole lot. We wanted,
Yeah.
if we were going to be able to pick to go to a place, the convenience of the whole thing and the familiarity was like priority number one.
Mm. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, you are from California, though, right? You grew up in Downey and Bellflower area?
Yeah, basically we grew up in Downey, but right on the border. So
Okay.
I mean, the Dodgers were definitely the Dodgers and the Angels. We didn't speak much to the Angels, but had a lot of talks with the Dodgers. They were definitely in the mix, and it would have been like my family would have been really happy. I mean, being that we would have been 25, 30 minutes from the ballpark there or living somewhere in that area. We had a lot of talks with the Royals. We had a lot of talks with the Marlins,
Mm.
and the Marlins would have been a fairly good fit. All my wife's family is from South Florida.
Uh,
Well, most of my wife's family is from South Florida, so they would have been happy with that, and my wife would have been, she would have been happy. We would have had some help and some family members close by. But ultimately, this is the place that when we talked about it from the beginning, like if we could play here, live here, never have to move, like don't have to change the kids' school, like the routines, everything can stay the same. It just was easily the best fit for us.
mm.
And I think that a lot of people are sleeping on the talent and the ability that this team and not only the team but the farm system and the guys
Hmm.
that are close have. And so um, I really do believe that there's a real opportunity for this team to make a run, surprise some people, and have some fun along the way, man. I mean, I've you know I'm 37 now. I think that there's probably 5 or 6 guys or 7 guys like on the roster that are like over 30, and the rest of the team is a bunch of young, jackrabbits that are like fast, athletic dudes. And so I think that's like the prospect of being around that is really exciting for me. And um, kind of just like being able to like reinvigorate me, and
Yeah.
being around like some young blood and some guys who are just making it up for the first couple of years of the big leagues and excited to be there. And like, some of that spirit and that energy is definitely infectious.
Well, how do you hit inside of a kind of a dome or indoors? How have you done in Arizona? I feel like you've gotten some big hits there. And is there
Yeah.
differences between playing outside? Is it that scientific or?
Well, I love playing in a dome. I mean, I was, obviously in Tampa for 10 years, and
Mm.
I just like the fact that there's just no elements. You don't you're when you wake up you're going to play a game. There's no rain, there's no wind, there's no
Mm.
temperature variables. Um, I think that's one of the toughest things about playing an Oracle. Is just it's cold and it's windy most nights, and some nights you have like that misty,
Yeah.
like ocean air, and there's a significant home field advantage there, but also the home players are still feeling that
Yeah.
that weather and that element to it. So
Fingers hurt.
um, yeah, I mean, like a 96, 97 mile an hour fastball, off the label of your bat, like doesn't feel good when it's 60 degrees out and the wind's blowing.
Are you going to miss the
So
Seagulls though?
yeah, I will miss the stadium. I do. I will say the stadium is beautiful. The fans were amazing. So some of those things, like they definitely, there's give and take with everything, right? Like, um, but I won't miss the cold
Yeah.
and I won't miss the wind. Yeah, I mean, I think that the environment there was great. It just, time to time was a little bit miserable, when
Yeah.
it's like the middle of July and it's, 55 degrees and that sideways slant mist is coming in and you're trying to hit, 98.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a little bit better weather, you went to Long Beach State. You had Troy Tulowitzki there playing shortstop. Um, what what was that all like? Because, or maybe I should phrase it better. You had that. How much of were you into schooling? Because I thought it was interesting. I saw you were a kinesiology major, but then you
Yeah.
switched to criminal justice. So
Yeah.
did that ever interest you? Healthcare or first responder type work,
I mean,
or does it check a
you know, to
box? You know.
to yeah, to be honest, like I always looked at it as baseball was like my first job. Like when I got to a certain point in baseball, I went after my first year at Long Beach, I went and played in the Cape and played really well at the Cape Cod League. And so at that point I was just kind of like, well, I'm gonna be all in on baseball,
Mm,
and I think even after I moved out of junior college into into Long Beach State, like I just said, I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket here, and like obviously, school and career, like, the reality is like if baseball doesn't work out, like it's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 years of my life,
mm,
and at that point, I can come back to school and I can finish out a degree and I can decide, what path I want to take there. Um, but I think that that's the right plan for everybody, like that's playing a college sport at a high level, um, and has like aspirations of being a pro. It's like
mm.
you have to do, and I got I got an F in one of my classes my last year, and I'll never forget the conversation I had with Troy Buckley, who was the pitching coach at the time, but he was like the recruiting coordinator, and he was the one who like basically like you so we lost, you lose scholarships and you lose
Mhm.
like I don't know if you lose dollars, but basically you just lose like percentages of scholarships if guys don't like if you leave for the draft and then guys aren't passing their classes, like it's a detriment to the team
Mm.
in terms of like the way they can recruit and offer scholarships and stuff. So I failed the class I didn't. I had like my GPA was horrible, and I'll never forget him just like yelling at me for probably 10 minutes, saying how like, that I should be embarrassed. And, this teacher, basically gives us every opportunity to like pass the class. And for you to like not be able to pass it is like a joke. And, and so, but so it's important to at least give some effort, be able to like pass your classes and at very least just show up for them. Right. Um, but I was pretty much all in, with trying to, make it to the next level of pro ball, get drafted, make it to the big leagues. So I guess, looking back, it was a mistake not to, be able to do that. But I just looked at it as like, well, I'll just go back. If I don't make it, I'll go back.
Well, you were the third pick in the '06 MLB draft, and you made your major league debut April 12th, 2008 against the Orioles. What do you remember about all that? Like maybe the call up story, or do you remember getting to the ballpark that day? How you
Man,
felt?
I don't. I was nervous. I know that. I got to the ballpark the night before. Um, like it was either I think the game had just started. I know that everybody was already like in the dugout, so the
Mm,
game was started. I don't remember what inning it was, but I remember that feeling being like a really awkward feeling because I got to the ballpark and the game was already started, and I got dressed by myself,
mm,
like in the uniform for the first time with nobody else in there, and then I went out into the dugout like to meet my new teammates like in the big leagues for the first time, like while the game is still going on, which is not uncommon. It happens. But yeah, and then the next day I was in the lineup. I don't remember where. I think I might have hit sixth or something, sixth or seventh that game. Um, my first at bat, I absolutely got blown up by. It was Daniel Cabrera
Mm.
was the pitcher, big, tall right-hander, really good sinker, and he just like I just got blown up, jam like dribbler back to the pitcher's mound. And my next at bat, I got a base hit, RBI ground ball in the six hole. But yeah, I just remember being like super nervous, and just like trying to tell myself like, I got here for a reason. Like all I could try and like hype myself up with all these words that I've like heard other people say to other people, like
Mm.
you deserve to be here. Like I'm trying to like play this mantra through my head, but none of it really matters when you're like, man, I've made it to like the apex of this sport. And like now it's like my job to just stay here and be
Mm.
good.
Yeah. Well, do you have your first hit? Do you have like a memorabilia room?
Yeah, I actually have it out in my cage. I don't have it hanging up. It's I just dusted it off the other day because I haven't it was underneath kind of like a cardboard paper wrapping, and
Mm.
I took it off, and I used to have it all in this room right here, but then we switched it out to like a sofa bed for our guests, and I took everything out, and now it's all just in boxes out there. But
Oh, okay.
one day I'll get it out and put it up again.
Well, you have three gold gloves. I guess you could say they're for each of the kids.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
they heavy or are they like lighter? Are they more hollow than you think?
The base is pretty heavy.
Oh, okay.
Um, I think it's made out of wood.
Oh,
Um,
so it's
the
solid.
base, and yeah, it's pretty solid. It's kind of in the shape of a home plate. And then the glove actually detaches
Oh,
from the thing. It's since I use Wilson, you don't actually get your own model. Like the model that's on there is like the DJ2. I think it's like the
mm-hmm.
Derek Jeter like basket web model.
Mm-hmm.
But the glove actually is like almost like a plastic glove. It just comes off of like there's a little like stand thing that it sits on.
Oh, okay.
So that just kind of comes off, and it's like a two-piece trophy. But yeah, the guys that use Rawlings get their own like game model like in the
Wow.
gold glove, but Wilson just gets like you could just get a generic glove.
That's funny. Well,
Yeah,
part of that rookie season, as you know, you had a great year. You made your first All Star team, and it was at Old Yankee Stadium. So, being
yeah,
a fan of the game, being young, I know Reggie Jackson, Yogi Berra, Goose Gottridge, Whitey Ford, they threw out the first pitch. That must have been
yeah.
pretty surreal.
I mean, you're reminding me of these things. I don't,
I know.
I like, it's been a while, and like, especially moments like that, like the only thing I remember about that, well, those 3 days or 2 days or whatever, was the home run derby and
Mm.
Josh Hamilton hitting like 50 home runs in the one round, and like him just hitting balls out of the old Yankee Stadium, which he didn't even win that home run derby. I think not Joe Mauer, Morneau ended up
Mm.
winning that home run derby, but nobody really remembers that because Josh Hamilton had that one incredible round where I think he literally hit like 30 home runs in the one round.
Tired himself
Um,
out.
yeah, he really did. But I remember that moment, and I remember like just brief moments of being like, super starstruck, like being in the same locker room as like these guys that I grew up with and or grew up watching and idolizing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I have all of that stuff. I had a friend of the family who basically would just like burn CDs of like
Mm.
every game, and has like I have all of those that at some point, I'd love to go back and watch.
Did you say anything to Derek Jeter, or do you kind of keep a low profile?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure I probably said what every kid that's dreamed of playing against him says, like, oh man, I watched you growing up,
Yeah.
I'm like, can't believe I'm out here with you. He's probably like, yeah, thanks, kid.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to play against him for I think he retired in 16,
Mm.
didn't he?
Yeah.
15 or 16.
Right around there. Yeah.
Um, so, I was lucky enough to play against him for, what, I guess 8, 7, 8 years. Um, and still one of the guys like I bet he could probably roll out of bed and get a game-winning base hit right now.
Yeah.
Like he's just one of those guys that you play against, and you just didn't want him at the plate in a big moment. Um, they had a lot of guys on their team like that, but he was one of the best. And never heard a bad thing about him. Like never, always heard like the work ethic, like the leadership
Mhm.
ability, like just a guy that was a good guy to try and emulate. And kind of, if you were a player in the Yankees organization, I'm sure he was like very easy to follow.
Yeah. You got to play with a pre-bearded Gabe Kapler, and I hear they call him Gabe the Babe in the marina.
Oh, is that what they call him?
Yeah. So, what was your relationship like with him as a player? Does it change at all when he becomes the manager?
Yeah, definitely. I was pretty much locker mates next to Gabe when we played
Mm.
together, and again, I think it's weird as a player, like a young player, because you're like I was so focused on myself, that like I probably don't remember half of the teammates that I had on
Right.
my team that year, because it takes a while to get out of this stage where you're like only caring about yourself. That's like the reality of professional baseball, is just like when you get there, you just want to stay there, and it doesn't matter. Like I'm not trying to like be a mentor to anybody. Like I'm not trying. I'm trying to like be the best player I can be.
Mhm.
And a lot of times that comes with like having these blinders on, to everything. And so a lot of like the memories, like unfortunately, like I don't remember a lot of those things. But I do remember that Gabe would bring his own food. So he was still like very disciplined in the way that he ate. And he'd bring like his own bag of like healthy stuff, to the field every day. Um, but as a manager, yeah, like the relationship was definitely different because I was, um, you I wanted to show like be the one to show like respect to him, and just be the player and him be the manager, because I feel like sometimes if you're like a we're all friends, and then you're the boss of the
Mhm.
company, and then like I'm just like disrespecting you because we're boys outside of it, then like everybody
Yeah.
else thinks that they can do that too, right?
Mhm.
It's like, but when you get into the ballpark, or his office or whatever, like I'm trying to show that level of respect because he's the boss, and
Yeah.
like whether we treat each other differently away from the field, we go have a beer or we go have dinner, whatever, like that's different. But like when we're at the field, it's like the boss or the manager player relationship, like I think should always like be respected in that way, even if we're the same age, or he's older than me, but I'm saying there will be a day where there's like I mean, it's like LeBron James now, right? Like he's probably, he's going to play for like a guy who's younger than him.
Yeah.
Like I've had over the past um, 3 years, like I think there's been 4 or 5 coaches on our staff that are younger than me, so, but I would never like treat them in a disrespectful way,
Mhm.
because they're still the coach and they still have that title and they're still there to try and teach me things and help me out on my journey. And so I think that that's been a big like emphasis for me, like coming into the years where there's guys I know that there's guys younger, is like I'm not going to disrespect them, and try and put them in their place or whatever because they're younger than me. Like they're
Mhm.
still there to do a job, and I'm here to do my job too.
Well, have you worked out with him, or do you stay away from him in the gym?
Gabe, no, I stay away from him. I stay away from him.
Yeah.
But he's strong, man. He works out all the time.
Yeah.
Most days when I show up to the ballpark, um, he'd be in the gym working out.
Mhm.
So I mean, it obviously shows in the way he looks, but that's not just genetics. He he definitely works out.
Well, I got like a couple quick like fire round questions. Is it cool if I kind of
Okay,
ask you? Then I'll wrap it up right after that, so you can.
sure.
Okay, cool. Um, all right, so I got some fun questions here. Who is someone in the league that you're maybe afraid or don't like to play in on as a third baseman?
And uh, I would say the guy right now is probably you know hits the ball the hardest, probably the most like electric swing in the game is probably Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I
Mhm.
mean, Tatis when he was healthy last or the year before, like he was, but he hits the ball really hard too. But I don't know that I would want to be in on Vladdy these
Yeah.
days.
I don't blame you on that one. And who would you rather face, Nolan Ryan or Randy Johnson?
I mean, Randy Johnson, because he's throwing from the left side.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know that I want to face either one of them. But I would choose the lefty over the righty every time.
Okay. And what's worse, fouling the ball off the hand or upper forearm area, or fouling it off the shin?
You mean like, I mean, I don't know if I could foul one off my hand. I like getting hit by a pitch,
Yeah, yeah.
or nah. I think the hand area is the worst.
Okay. I've always wondered because it
My
looks
shin is
terrible.
my shin is like most guys wear shin guards now, but my shin is like it's weird. Like if I bang my right shin,
Mhm.
it hurts so much more than if I bang my left shin. Just because like I've hit balls off my left shin for so many years now that it's almost like a kickboxer that like kicks like something all the time. Like the shin just kind of gets
Oh yeah.
deadened over time. Um, not to say that it doesn't still hurt. It's just like I would much rather like foul a ball off my shin than I would like because the hands just tend to break, man. Like I've
Yeah.
broken my hand twice in my career, and like fingers just like you don't realize until you don't have one of them that like how valuable just one is like to try and play the game. So it's
Yeah.
like you get hit in one or the wrist or something and it's like stiff. It's just you kind of like just puts you behind the eight ball for a while.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, Evan, it was a lot of fun to get to know you and catch up with you a little bit. Good luck in Arizona this year, and I guess we'll see you around.
All right, man. Thank you so much.